Oh, yeah. We can't guarantee they won't come back to you when they're interested in that. They'll find a safe place.
I do not.
Great.
I'm gonna pass this to Jack. You're gonna want to make sure that I keep me the right place over that way.
Is this like a bunch of them or?
I started writing a book.
There's some good news in front of us. That you found more. Yeah. Oh, is it the safety committee? I realized we just got together.
So once they return, we'll get started. No, there was a lot of politics. Did you print all of them?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. Yes, I did. Now I get here.
You have a good trip.
Yeah. Yeah, yesterday, well, last Wednesday was long. And then my water bottle was leaking.
Oh, no.
Oh, shit.
Oh, really?
I was like, and then I bet it's my water bottle, which is okay.
Thanks for the brochure. Thank you.
Yeah, I just printed one, but. Maybe I did. Oh, it's on my home one, I don't have it. But that's
All right.
yeah.
Another quick question. The little library,
You've had your quota of questions, but they have.
I know, sorry. One more. Keep it away.
the little library. The little library that.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that has to get back there. So, it's ready to go now. And I was thinking that maybe we should put it out. I just don't know if I need to get approval to put it out front.
I was gonna put it on one of the posts for for there, because in the summertime, everybody uses it there.
I'm worried about putting it there because of everything that's been happening back there.
Yeah, Josh likes them up on Sunday. Did you guys clean?
Oh, yeah,
all
okay.
the and stuff like that?
Oh, yeah, it was in shop.
Oh, good
thankfully.
job. Okay.
But still,
Yeah.
it was
Alright.
this word. That three no longer exists. I just always do the other one.
That's okay.
We call it the plot.
It gets a lot of use. I can
Yeah,
tell you
well,
that.
it does.
It's now.
It's not, there are certain other places.
Just
that
five
I
back there.
Love,
Okay,
being on it. and
we're gonna get
very-
started. I didn't mean to say
Yeah.
that.
Adopted the,
Um,
we would sit and read stories.
Ah.
So let's start with the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, do I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
I move to approve tonight's agenda, September 19th, 2023.
All in favor? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from September 5th?
I move to approve the minutes as submitted by email. Yeah,
Yes,
and I
submitted by
forgot to print them out. I was focused on all of them.
Yes. I second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Okay. Do we have any public comment? Are you here to listen?
You haven't been there?
Oh,
Yeah. I'm gonna guess that they're here to talk about the water, and Carol will not be here until after 7.
Carol's gonna come and give a report.
Okay.
But jump in at any other time. Any correspondence?
Yes. I had correspondence from, Elizabeth, Murphy Lewis and Meredith asking for more information about the, water situation. And I sent them both the same little blurb. And we also had a response, and I have to say an anonymous response about the, vandalism on the playground. And, they have asked if they can, buy a, doorbell camera. And, I said yes, so that we will have, a way to see what's happening out on the playground. That was one of the things, last year when the safety people came around, they said, I can't believe you don't have any cameras out there. And he said, no, you don't. And they said back then that it would be a great idea if we had cameras back there. And it's just the doorbell one, so that it also works as a doorbell, so that when people come in from the back door, they can, they can ring the bell, they can ring the bell in the front door. People will have them in the back as well.
Great.
Do we have one in the front already? I know we talked about that last year.
We have a doorbell, it's not a camera, but I can get switched to that. I'll believe it. But where everything's happening is out back.
Okay.
And how is that viewed?
On the computer.
Which is privately,
It'll be, yeah,
is that it?
Up to you.
it'll be hooked up to mine. Yeah. And it'll be just like the bus camera that we have, and the bus camera, is only viewed if need be. And we've had the bus camera now for, I'm gonna say, 3 years, and we used it once, and that was last year, just to review a situation on the bus, and it didn't have anything to do with vandalism, it had to do with seat choice. And that was it.
And will this camera be, it'll obviously self-erase and then continue to do, how long a period of time will it view before we do it?
I won't know until I see the box that it comes in, but I will let folks know.
And also the
The
view
angle,
parameter
yeah.
angles or whatever,
Yes.
so.
Usually there's some options.
And just real quick, sorry, but the safety guy did recommend the front one, so are we gonna purchase the front one? Because it's not Kristen can't see.
Right, yeah, we'll get one on for both, yeah.
Okay. I do not have a report. So I'm gonna move on to you.
I'm probably gonna steal a little thunder from Mary, but that's okay. So we are halfway through the first 6 weeks, and the students are working really hard, learning new routines, and they appear to be settling right in and doing great. So part of doing the routines is also kind of a self-assessment, or not a self-assessment, a teacher assessment, informal, and they're doing that, which is kind of easing into work. I did go into a classroom today, and one of the students actually said that they enjoy homework. So they are enjoying the homework they're getting. We're moving right along, but I'll let Mary speak to the rest of the stuff that's going on.
So I did want to respond to a couple of things that came up that I dealt with last time that we talked about. So I think that, there was a conversation about the website. And so, I spoke with Kristen about it, and we were trying to, she was asking me to ask if we could get a little more clarification about what, could go on there, because one of the examples that I gave her was it had been brought up by the committee, like the bus schedule, and she made the point that the school bus schedule is not publicly advertised, so that's why it links to the other schedule. And that, I mean, the school boat is what I'm thinking, the school boat. And then, she started to ask some privacy issues around putting in that publicly on the web. So I just wanted to kind of, see if we could get some clarification on some of the things that you'd love to see up there. And we're ready to kind of make some, changes or add some things. The links that didn't work because they linked to an old site system that they were using that's no longer. And so we're just gonna have to try to figure out if those aren't yet. She did update some of it. And then you asked about the biker safety. That Penny is planning on doing that. We talked about that. And then website, biker safety. And then my update is just that we're settling in, as Anne said. We are looking forward to a couple field trips that we're going to be planning for the fall. One to Cow Island and hopefully another one to Mid-Coast with the TLC, the Collaborative Inter-Island Collaborative. And
When is that one?
for the older kids, yes, I'm sorry.
And first grade.
And first graders, it would just be a day trip. They're
So
planning
1 through 5.
one,
What's the date on that one?
the 18th, I believe that's a Thursday, is that a Thursday?
Nope, that's October. That's a Wednesday.
The 19th then, because they're doing, I think, the 18th to the 20th. But I felt like it was too early for us to be even thinking about overnights, so I just asked if we could go for a day. They're offering some really good programming, and because it's in the Mid-Coast and accessible to us, I think it's something we should think about. It's not 100% decided yet, but I think it would be a good trip to take. The kids are gonna be, the older kids, 4th and 5th grade, are gonna be taking the NEWA testing in October. So Sarah was out today getting some of that set up. There's a new website, so she and I are gonna coordinate on how that all works, but she's working to make sure that we're connected for that. Nancy has contacted me about doing some fire safety in October, because it's fire safety month, so there's a lot of new fun things going on. We're getting outdoors a lot. We've been doing Fridays, we've been doing outdoor learning, so Heidi's been taking her group out more around the periphery of the building, not too far away. They've done the walk the path, they've gone to look for milkweed for their, monarch caterpillar.
Yeah, but I also have a flexible hour in the afternoon that I can take the first graders along a little further away. So we'll be able to do both, but it'll look a little bit different than the distance that the older kids track.
And there'll be times that the first graders can also come with the older kids, if that seems to make sense. We have been hiking down to the Hook because we're learning about erosion and earth systems, and so it's been giving us a amazing example of what's going on. I was kind of hoping the hurricane would change it a little more, so I'm not, but yeah, so that's been a really nice learning connection for us. So we're just getting to learn all of the amazing places that we can connect the kids learning to. So it's been, I feel like we're settling in. Yes.
Cow Island on the 12th.
Islands on the 12th of October.
And
That's
a week
fun.
from today,
Yeah,
drum roll, open house.
yes. Open house. So I've given that information to Bev. She's linked and put it on the town website and linked the flyer. I think I've sent it to you, sent it to the parents, and I still have to get it up on the boards. One of those things, like, I always feel like I'm just going to the boat and then I run out of time. So that's my plan for tomorrow. I think that's all I have, unless you guys have some questions.
No, thank you. Okay, let's move on to some old business. So we're gonna
hold off on the water update. Carol's gonna come give us a first-hand update. She's coming on this boat, the 6:30 boat. And she said she'd come right here. So let's move on to the toileting policy, which we took a look at, last time. The first time that Heidi kind of had some input in. Does anyone have any comments on that? Yeah,
Question, did they go up to parents and did you get a response?
It did go out to parents and we did not get any response.
No, I fielded a few questions, just for specific things going on. But it's all very doable.
So do we move
Do
for
it
a second reading to, yep, second reading?
do I have a motion for a second reading?
Make a motion for the toilet cleaning policy. I make that. Is this for a pass?
Yes.
We all read it, yeah. The pass in the toilet
Yeah.
cleaning policy.
Okay.
Any discussion?
My only thing now that we've done other policies is that, and I'll do that, is change the heading so that it is, school, should be guidelines, school department, and then school committee policy, and then have it say toilet training, so that it matches. I know there's not gonna be a queue for the municipal, but I think we should mirror the headings that we have on all the other policies.
So in our list of policies on the book, it'll go at the very, very end. With, kind of like the others.
Right, well, it all looked great, but then when we started doing all the other policies, I thought we should mirror the same heading. Do you want me to do that, or do you want to do that?
I'll do it and I'll send it to you to check.
Okay.
So that
I just
we're-
want
Yep.
to,
And then so, I guess my other question is, once this passes, are you gonna resend it to parents?
Yes.
And request
Yep, and
signed copy and all that?
yes, we signed at the second page.
And are you gonna send it home via email, or are you gonna send it in a hard copy?
Hard copy.
Okay.
Hard copy is the easiest thing for them.
All right. Here, did motion, all in favor? Good. Okay, next, we had all of those policies that we discussed, or that were presented to us last time. I know myself, Nancy and Ann met last week, and Nancy kind of took the lead on the policies, but, does anyone have any other additional comments on those? Again, we're doing all the policies that are required by the state of Maine first. Get those up on the website.
the ones we did,
For the hazing,
right, so are we doing the first reading for these because we just presented them roughly last time, or was that? Or is this
Oh.
our second reading? Because it says
yeah,
That's the first reading.
the first reading,
Yeah.
okay.
So do you want suggestion edits this meeting, or do we?
Yes,
Okay. Can we separate the paragraph? No administrator and the students, and then also in the case?
oh, yeah,
and
right there, yep.
organizations, because the-
There's also the bottom one, that last one that starts with persons.
Yeah, I have that one. too.
Okay.
Yeah,
So there are three.
yeah, three that need spaces.
I make a motion for the first reading of the hazing policy ACAB.
Second.
any discussion?
All in favor?
Next, we have the, commitment to standards for ethical and responsible behavior. Do I have a motion for the first reading?
Somehow we lost the heading, it just says ABAA, and it should,
No, that's it. That's it.
oh,
Yeah, I know.
Seconds, but this is one of the.
okay, because it says 203 somewhere, all right, you're right. Well, my page one is
You think?
somewhere. But that's okay.
Make,
Yeah,
motion for the ABAA first reading.
I have a second,
I think,
all in favor? Next, we have,
I'm just gonna say, feel free, if you read through them again and you see something, just give a holler.
we have the purchasing and contracting, procurement staff code of conduct. Do I have a motion for the first reading of DJH?
Yeah, we need a header on that one. It says should be on school.
No, on the second page, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's not shop of the
Oh,
year
and it's
one.
first page, yep.
I believe that we, have the first reading of the first school contracting, in the staff code of conduct also.
I have a second,
Nancy?
all in
Yeah.
favor?
Another comment of if possible, because these will rarely be printed out, that mostly be online, but to see if it works out that we don't have a third page with a
Correct,
single line.
right. And in the next set of policies, you'll see that there is one that just has, the last page is, adopted and has a line, but
Right, and we've got page 1 of 2, we should also have this one say page 2 of 2
right.
on the purchase. of
Provided that the
contract.
headers don't drive everything all the way down to the third page. Yeah, we'll get that out.
Right, well, these should be, if these are in the footer.
Yeah.
They can be lower and they won't impact that.
Okay, do I have a motion to accept, the first reading of PN school properties disposition?
So moved.
I have a second. All in favor?
I'm gonna see the second.
Yeah, Nancy did, Jeff.
Yeah.
All in favor?
So that was one that got sent out and it was fine.
Okay. And the next ones are.
Right.
Okay. Yes, so the next thing I want to work on is we have that meeting in October 14th is our joint meeting with the Yarmouth School Board. Last year, I don't think we gave Andrew Dolph enough time to kind of give all the information that we wanted, so I wanted to just touch base with everyone. I asked Jeff while he was away too, to give us any input so that Ann can send him that email and he can have plenty of time, and his team can have plenty of time to scrounge up the information for us. So, is there anything earth shattering that you guys want to know or talk about?
I think preparation for academics, obviously.
Yeah.
The guidance last year mentioned, that is mostly like mental, like anxiousness. That they, like in past years have seen, so I think, but they weren't able to really give a ton of information, as I think it was. So I'd love guidance to be able to see like what they are seeing for patterns, like over the years for students.
And we also wanted to know what their evacuation.
Yeah.
Plan was.
Anything else? Anything that you guys want to know from a teacher standpoint?
I don't know if it would be the right meeting to have, but I've been in contact with the curriculum coordinator there because they're in a couple of evaluation years. We're looking at their math program and they'll be looking at their literacy programs. And I know that MSA 51, it has completely shifted their curriculum programming in the past couple of years. So I just like to make sure that we're still on top of that. So she did reach out to me and said that we could chat. So I don't know if that's something that would come up for you, but that's definitely on my mind, like what core curriculum programs they're going to use. All good information. Yeah.
Anything else?
Dartmouth does not have a curriculum for, or did they start that?
Yeah.
They started that as our half day.
Last year.
Last year, maybe even.
No, last year.
Okay. It just, I think there's touch points there, even though we tend to focus on what the K through 5 curriculum is, but to find out what their high tide, low tides are with their early childhood program and what we might glean from that, or opportunities for interaction. You know, I know it's hard when you bring 40 pre-kids over here. But it's,
In general, I would really, really like to be able to find ways for us to connect with the elementary school, both Row and the elementary school, because I think it would be really nice for the students here to have some prior connections before they head over that feel a little bit more ongoing. So I've reached out to see if there's a partner class that maybe we could start, or just kind of start having some ongoing interactions, whether it means that we're doing projects together or Zooming or visiting each other or all of the above. I just think it would be a really nice thing.
Yeah, I think it's also to ask if there are other opportunities where maybe we have a special event or something that our children might be included in.
there've been a couple times in the past, or one time that we took kids over to another school, and for them just to be in another school environment and see things that were the same and things that were different. And then we brought them here, which was, a bigger rotation of just physically, we didn't have the space, but, out there and here, unfortunately, the weather cooperated, and I think we all went to the beach together on the bus, which was a great interaction. But the kids really, I remember from pictures, it was like, oh, yeah, everything like that. So I concur, that's really valuable to do it all grade levels, and we concentrate so much in that last year, but maybe we missed the boat by not starting earlier.
Well, a couple things, that we've talked about here at the tables over the years was, socialization and with the small numbers, how difficult it is. And the idea of a partner class would just, be helpful. One of the things I know that Sarah worked on with the kids in her class as they got closer to 5th grade, really making sure that the kids went over and played ball, t-ball or soccer, or they were in some kind of organization with kids from over there, so that they would have a buddy going over there. But I think, kids aren't inclined to be in sports, that, just the classroom connection would be great for them as well.
Yeah, I would say because you have some students aren't really interested in the sports, and I mean, also the timing, when they're missing a 6:30 boat, but first or second grader, you've experienced. I think, so I think those pieces can make it challenging for parents. And, so yeah, things during the day would be, and it's hard when it's only, 45 minutes to an hour. If there was an event or something specific, like a small group.
Even just getting physically in a larger school, see what that feels like. I just think that doing that more than just a few times when they're older is just a nice way for them to just kind of be aware of where they're headed and then they can see the value of why it's nice to be small, but also be prepared for being a larger setting.
And that way they, like you were talking about the anxiety, that way they get to see it. They don't have to imagine it in their head and what that one.
Right,
Had a lot to.
yeah, that's a good list. All right, if we don't have any more topics, let's move on to some new business. So Anne sent us some new policy, additional policies to review. I don't know if you want to say anything more about that.
So I've got some good news around all these policies that I sent. So what we're working on are the required requirements from the state. And the first one, the BED, you can just take a look at it. It's already been approved. We approved it, I think it was last year, 2021. And that one came out of remote learning. And if you remember, and I strongly suggest that we read this one over because this came out after we were doing all of our meetings remote. And then they said, so, you know, what is going to be acceptable moving forward? And I think we spent a lot of time on this and I'm wondering if it's still everything that everybody wanted. We'll just take a look at it and we can kind of readopt it next time.
Does that go for all the other ones?
No.
Yes.
Not familiar with all these policies or the abbreviations, just wondering what are they?
Yeah. I call them the call letters for lack of, you know, anything else. And just so that you know, the call letters mean nothing. They're just the way that, I don't know who it is, decided to group them. And so BED is called Remote Participation in School Committee Meetings. And so that one came after, you know, all the COVID meetings had to happen. And so that's when they put that one. But just, oh, that's a great question.
So if
So
you look on their website, or there are most of the ones beginning with B have to do with
Yeah.
a school board, in which in case we're a school committee.
So that they're classified, the first letter A, which is foundations and basic commitments. B is school board and governance of operations. C is general school administration. D is fiscal management. E is support services. F is facilities, planning and development. That's usually you have those when you're always adding things. G is personnel. H is negotiations. I, the only one that makes sense, is instruction. And J is students. K is school, community, home relations. And then L is student teaching and internships. And I think we have a couple that we put on at the end of ours that don't have any call letters, and one will be like the toilet policy. But those are also listed on our website when you pull down A, it tells you what it is. But the call letters, they're crazy.
So the remote meeting one, if we have a snow day on a school committee, because that happened last year, do we cancel or do we go with it?
We cancel because I think the way the policy reads, I'm going from memory and it's been almost two years of memory. You have to give notice of it. Okay.
Notice that it's gonna be on Zoom.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, 24-hour notice.
Yeah, and so if we call it in the morning, you can't really do it. But, you know, we could always, if it works out in everybody's schedule, which it doesn't always do, you know, if it's a Tuesday, we could always have a meeting on, you know, on Wednesday. But again, like It doesn't matter.
Did you want to know?
No, just read that, just reread it, please.
For next time.
Yep, for next time. And we will, for next time, and we will, make any, email me over the week if you have any suggestions on that one. I'll also put it online, so that we can all edit it in case you have questions. And we will just re-adopt that one because it's already been adopted. It's already in our policy book. But the next one is BEDH, public participation at school board meetings. And again, this one, at this juncture, it's the main school management, and it's the sample policy, and so I just let you folks read through all the notes that they give before I start making it pretty again.
And you would like some notes
And again, yeah,
next meeting.
yeah, I will put this one. Well, you already have, I think you already have this one, but I'll put it in the Google Docs so that we can edit it. Yeah.
And you can see it, so.
And so when it goes up on the Google Docs, all the notes from the lawyers will be taken out. But in the school board policy, this policy will be on the back side of this. So what I'm doing with the policy book here, just so that you know, so you have the A's, and then on the back of it, the A will be, this is what you've adopted, and this is what MSMA has.
Just a sample one.
This is a sample, so that if you have any questions about legality or whatnot, it's right there.
So it's the same thing for this EBAA.
EBAA, no. EBAA, that's another one that has a little exclamation point on line thing, because you folks have all,
Chemical hazards.
you have already approved this one. You approved it in February of 2016. So this one will just be a reread. And if there's no changes, we can readopt it and redate it, and it'll just, you don't have to have a second reading, it can just be moved right along.
We have
For next
time,
time.
we have time to go back to the remote participation, policy,
Sure.
get some clarification. And then we're gonna be reading it, but I
Yeah.
want to make sure I understand when I'm reading it, that I'm reading it. When they talk about, for instance, on page, I think it's page 132, it's not listed, but the top underneath the heading, it says the opportunity for the public to comment.
Looking for
I think it's page 2, even though it doesn't say page 2. I think the opportunity for the public to comment at school committee meetings. This is some statute here, applies to remote public meetings. So when we're talking about remote public meetings, we're not talking about televised, we're just talking about when we have to, the committee has to meet remotely.
Yeah.
That's it.
And again, going from my memory, which again is 2 years old, and there's been a couple of policies gone through, but I also, I think it also means like if you're down in Virginia or something, and you let us know that you're gonna be there and you want to come into the meeting, I think we can.
You mean a board, a committee member?
Correct.
Yeah.
I think that that is in here as well.
It says a member of the school committee who participates remotely in a public meeting of the school committee is considered present for
Right.
purposes of a forum.
But what they didn't want is for, 3 of you folks to just be home while we're sitting here. It's gotta be because you're not, you're, like I said, you're down in.
So all of that seems pretty clear to me. I just want to make sure when they refer to the public being able to comment, they're not specifically including, because I understand it includes when we meet remotely, but if a person is remotely participating in the meeting, such as through Zoom. If they do not have the ability to communicate, anything now,
Correct. If we were to go Zoom,
then
then
they
they
would
would,
have.
then they would have it.
They don't have to have it.
Correct.
Strange.
Well,
If someone can't make the meeting for whatever reason, that they have no way of sharing their comments.
School committee.
And no, I'm talking about the public,
the public,
you know, where, because if you read it, the opportunity for the public to comment at school committee meetings applies to remote public meetings. So I guess I would need clarification. I want a remote public meeting. That, my understanding, if I read that correctly, is that it only applies to when we meet remotely.
correct.
Not if the public is remotely joining our meeting
Right.
Correct.
here in the school.
So for instance, right now, we are not meeting remotely.
Correct.
We are allowing people to view our meeting, but they don't have the ability to comment. But if for some reason we needed to go remote, then, and we had that capability, then everybody would be remote and we'd all be on the same footing.
The next policy though does discuss that people can write comments. If they cannot be at the meeting, if it's in person.
Yeah.
Only the remote meeting,
No, the public meeting,
all meetings.
comment, yeah.
Public participation.
They can,
Public
right, they can
Okay.
email me and have me bring comments, or they can call and have me, relay comments, or you folks as well.
You have clarification on that, Phil?
Yes, maybe.
Okay, so
We are up to E, B, C, A. And that is comprehensive health and safety emergency and management plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did we, so we did the UDH,
Say that again?
we did the UDH.
Yes.
Public participation.
this one we have to, this is just a review right now, and then we need to have a first reading and then for next time, whereas BED, we're just gonna re-adopt.
Correct.
So we haven't made a motion for BEDH, because it said we're moving on to EDAA. but
We haven't had the first reading yet.
These are policy for review, not for first reading.
Gotcha. So we're not making suggestions, so we just kind of go.
You can always make suggestions.
Oh, that.
You can always make.
But the ones that are new, she's gonna put in a Google Doc, so we can make comments there.
Yeah.
So this one, we have to do a first reading.
EBCA, Comprehensive Health and Safety Emergency and Management Plan. Yes, we need to, that will be,
When
when we
we need to.
need to work on.
I'm sorry, I'm like very, so what are we voting on?
We're not.
We're not voting.
We're not, we're just reviewing,
Nothing.
Okay.
but we're not, I mean, I'm just, these are the ones that we need to look at for next.
Okay.
Yeah, we just,
So then the next one is ECD, which is pest management in school facilities and on school grounds.
wait, you missed one. You missed one. You missed EBCC, No. bomb threats.
Same, just review.
Yeah, it is one that, it's a required one.
Mhm.
And we are, and so we'll make this one pretty,
We have to make this one hard.
we have to make it hard. There are very, I think, rules that you have to follow when when a threat is called in, whether you know it is a hoax or not. None are ever considered a hoax. You need to follow the protocol. And then that's one of the areas on, main DOE that if this ever happens, we have to call have to call the State Department and record it as well.
So is this only for bomb threats and do we have a separate one for? Active shooter? Yeah,
No, because that's just 911 and the world takes over at that point. But,
So we don't need to have a policy if we follow
Right.
Alice training or anything like that. We don't have to have that
I think I
documented.
think you're gonna find that is gonna be in, another one of them. I think it's gonna be,
In the safety.
yeah, it's gonna be in the EBCA, Comprehensive Health and Safety Emergency and Management Plan.
yeah.
It's gonna,
We did speak last year and I was meant to like bring this piece up, that we don't have a clear safety. Like I, as a parent, if there was something that happened here, like I don't know how I'd be informed, I don't know where I'm supposed to get my child, because you're gonna have every parent coming here, and we talked about like
Yeah.
a place to direct parents.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I
there's
just think, like, also even just hoaxes, you know, for, like, and it might not be something happening at the school, like, what is our protocol if something happened on island that involved, like, a criminal act, like, are we doing a lockout, like, all door, you know, but I don't think that we've given, and I know, like, we think like we're isolated, but we haven't, definitely not, I mean, we have passed the bay lines with people coming from Portland, like, I just think that, you know, anything, sadly, if something happened for on here, but I do think it's really important that we, I mean, there's just the incident at Paz in Portland, with the hoax of an active shooter yesterday.
Yes.
So, you know, we've had students, so I don't know if like we're, you know, as a school, you know, on Shabig, like notifying, so, you know, I'm sure Yarmouth is notifying, but I just think there needs to be clarification on that, because
I think you are spot on, you know, in the event that there's an emergency here at the school. Parents need to know that if it's a lockdown, that your kids are gonna be in school and you can knock on the door, but we're not gonna let you in. And if it's, you know, if we've gone off-site, you need to know where you need to come to pick up your child and know that they're safe. And so, and those protocols, I don't believe have ever been set up, but we will.
Okay, that was one of the questions with Yarmouth to be consistent, and it may change over
Yeah.
the course of years of what life happens at, but whether they were using Alice and what our staff needed to be.
And some, you know,
Training.
and some of their protocols might not be appropriate here. But, you know, I know that one of the things that you folks have stressed is that you want the same language used, so that when they're here or there, it's the same language, you know, and we'll do that as much as we can, but wherever you are, it's gonna be a different location and children will be walked through their protocols.
yeah, because I know we've had the safety person, but also like Yarmouth, we, you know, just to come and know, you know, to walk through the school. Like, and I know it's nothing we want to talk about, but after going through it, you know, I instantly thought of our kids. So, yeah, I just think that is really like, should be a priority for us to, because we did a fire drill, but we haven't done, and just like to keep in mind too, like they say, not to make public where you're gonna have the remote locations, like only parents, you know, kids, because they're saying, you know, if you're
Well, we could-
notifying the entire town, like
Well, we have
website where,
we have capability, or I have capability of just contacting from my phone, just the parents. And
Yeah.
say, you know, hey, we're at ABC location. Child safe, when, you know, when it's time, come where you want, this is where you can pick them up.
And I think we need clarification if something's happening at Yarmouth, because we have gotten feedback from parents that they've been concerned that they haven't gotten the information from us. And so, and we might not be responsible for that, but I think that that needs to be like clarified so parents know when to expect communication, if it's only about to be done.
Yeah, if there's a, you know, if there's a bomb threat or, you know, fire over there, we don't usually know, you know, unless, you know, unless they call in directly tell us, you know. I was, it was fortunate that, you know, year 4 and the high school remembered to call and let me know when the exams were and that the kids were gonna leave it at noon, and so I was able to set up the boat and the bus for the kids. But, you know, lots of times, whatever happens over there, we are not made aware of it. And sometimes that's okay, you know, we don't need that extra,
What would we do with that information?
Does Yarmouth not have an automated system? Cumberland has an automated system where you get a phone call and a text from the school when things like that happen.
yeah,
So Yarmouth, if your child is in Yarmouth,
yeah.
enrolled in the Yarmouth school.
Right, if the
You
parents have that, yes.
Do you have that?
Well, yes, we do have that, but, in the past, like when Mike was here, I know he was on an email list and he did know, like, all the stuff that was going on over there and did communicate that to us as parents of students on the mainland, which was, you know, it was good because it bridged that gap between having this school still consider them, not saying they don't consider, but it just, you know, to really know what's going on with our students over there. And secondly, my concern was, like last year, there was, I think, at least 3 in Yarmouth last year. And was very close to us, that there was bomb threats and shooter threats and stuff. And I was wondering, this school being close, what we would do, you know? I mean, I don't know what vicinity you have to be in to take that threat and act on it in your own school. Like,
It's freshman, based on the superintendent, freshman year and before that. There's, even in our little school last year, I was technically the superintendent. And so I would get those, I would get a text or email for any of the statewide things that were happening, like a private one. And then I think what happens is the superintendent makes a decision about what needs to be shared and whether it occurs. So,
or even just the acknowledgement communication. So that it's happening, this is what. Yeah.
Seems to me that might be a question from Yarmouth, is are we a part of a notification to our district? I mean, to Shahid Island, is it part of their safety plan? Because maybe it should be written into their safety plan, how they need to make us.
Yeah.
Or make plans around the kids who are over there, to get them back.
Right, because we're the ones that need to send the bus down to the boat or make sure that the boat is over there to pick them up.
Yeah, like you said, being simple earlier, and you
Right.
know, I just think like that awareness. And for you guys, like going over to town, I think that we should be linked to Yarmouth.
Right.
And because we have siblings in the school building, so parents, you know, just to know.
I added that to talk to Dr. Dole. So. Excellent.
I think Dolph and also Yarmouth, please, could be, you know, one Dolph is like that.
All right, so read through that one. And next two are going to be good ones. Ready? ECV. Pest management in school facilities and on the school grounds. We already have this policy, so it is just a quick read through.
We'll adopt it.
Yeah, we will readopt. And then you have ECB-E, which is the notification of a planned pesticide application. And we do that. We've done it on the baseball field, but we've also done it on, for ant management around the school. And we just use the postage that the company gives us, but it's nice to have a policy that we would use as well. And so the pest management ECB is just a read through, but the notice of the application, the -E, is gonna be a two-part. And then the last one is EB-R1, and that's the safety program administrative procedure. And that's,
We didn't get
That's
that.
not on our agenda.
okay. I'll say that then.
I
think I got enough.
I think that's enough.
Got enough?
Yeah. So that was a lot. Does anyone have any questions on what?
I'll send-
we read?
I'll send those out.
Any new ones put in Google Docs for
Correct.
editing,
Right.
and the other ones,
I'll just resubmit them so that you know which ones. I'll resubmit them separately in an email, so you know which ones are just to look at.
but they're all gonna end up as a Google Doc to be linked to the website.
No,
No,
no.
some of them are Word or,
They go to PDF to be. Okay, so they're in the Word, but then but we save them as, PDFs and then put them on the website.
Okay, so the next two items, again, we're gonna need to move to this, October 3rd. The next meeting, I think it's October 3rd. We still do not have all that information from the town.
Did they say there was,
We're working with the town to have that resolved hopefully by next meeting.
did they mention, by the way, sorry, are they gonna put, the numbers of what
The current, where we are in the current budget.
yeah, but then also, we were missing the numbers of what we had put, what we had budgeted for, we were missing those numbers, so we can see the percentile of where we were at.
For this current year,
Yeah,
that's what we're waiting for.
and we'll also have what we spent to October.
Correct.
Okay.
Because I know, but then we'll start uploading that to the website as well.
Is any of this impacting the audit that we're still, I mean, this is, okay, so they have, the audit paperwork is all on the auditor. There's nothing that we are still, for the town is still needing to supply to them.
so if we're still on the review of FY '24 budget from July 1st current, that is what we are currently in, and that does not affect the auditor because we're currently in it. The FY '23 budget finalization, I'm not sure where they are in the audit, but they'll need us to do that task that we need to do in order for them to complete the school budget.
And that's the information we're waiting on from the town.
And when does the audit due? Like, when do we, because I know we've always asked for extensions, but when is like the actual audit due? So we don't have to ask for an extension.
But which one?
It's-
The FY '23,
Yeah,
I believe that they have started it, but and technically, in the real world, it should be back to us by December, but I don't think that that's gonna happen because the people that, were supplying to do our audits have been kind of backlogged with us. So this one is the one that's up next, and I don't know when that is going to when they're gonna be ready for that part of it.
and when do we have to request an extension by the one.
It won't be until probably June, but cross my fingers, I believe that we will have the FY 23 audit back by then.
Okay.
It'll be done. It's nearing completion and it should be done.
Maybe Carol knows.
We just finish it off.
Yeah, I believe we can go through the website then.
Carol, do you know when the audit should be done for the FY?
Which one?
The 23, FY 23.
Theoretically, by the end of December.
Usually,
But I can't, what was that?
you said December.
That's what we were told, but the audit company is coming out in early October, so I'm gonna try and meet with them, because I haven't seen the contract, and I wanna be sure that's in the contract. I think they're, I think they're over the hump in terms of, not, I think it should go smoothly, but does it affect you guys?
With extension wise, right?
Well, we have not put to rest our FY 23 budget yet.
And yes. So you need to know your invisibility, your balance,
Correct.
and thus.
Staffing.
Spend it anyway.
An update on special ed.
We have an interview on Thursday evening. So we hope to have some more information, positive information for you in that aspect. And then the website information, Mary gave you some. She's working with Kristen on the back end of things. There's some portions of the website that are what they are, and they can't be changed, like the bus schedule and boat schedule. Sarah came out to the question. Oh,
Yeah, and I have, well, it's about the website, so
Okay.
what's you gonna get?
okay. So, we had a Sarah here working on technology today, and if you get a request for an email, that's for the school committee's email, answer it so that you can then be in on that, and then it'll go live.
Is that
Is
the
that the
email we
text?
got? It
Just
just
that
said
step two.
Yes.
Yeah, just
Okay.
reply and
Just reply.
say, got it,
Yeah.
and then she'll reply and say, yay.
Okay, that was mine. All right. So
Yay.
all the 2 to 5 computers are updated. The NUIA
Yeah, just reply.
lockdown
They got it.
browsers have been updated. NUIA reports for each child have been printed out. The smart board in Heidi's room is outsmarting all of us. And so I believe Beth's coming tomorrow to do some work on that. It's none of the markers work on it, and so she's gonna be working on that. Again, that smart board is probably 10 to 12 years old, so it's probably past its prime.
Was the original notebook located that went with that?
I haven't seen it at this point. I can download it, I'm sure.
Okay,
The
there was a notebook somewhere that went with.
the actual projector works, and
Mhm.
the smart board has pretty much been used as a screen.
Mhm.
I would just like that if it's capable of working, to have it working so that I can use the tools that go with it.
And the students, I think, respond really well to that. And I know they do in theirs. And the school committee at shabeedschool.net went through. So please ask the committee to check their emails and see if they got an invite to that group. And so it's all set up. So we're chugging right along on website.
So, once again, the handbook is not on the website. And we didn't receive the handbook this year, we're just wondering, after
is-
several years,
It is live and it'll be there tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and then, my wife informed me the teacher information isn't up to date on the website.
Probably not. Yep.
And then the water test results, is that put on the website?
Yes.
I wasn't able to open it.
Yeah.
It came through with the same code. And the last, I wasn't, the last three agendas, not the last three, but the three that should be on there for this year, all come up just as minutes, and I don't know. I'm hoping it wasn't, I tried it like several times, but it's because it would be you click on either agenda or click on minutes, but I couldn't get them to come up.
Okay.
I could for the last year, because that's what I was checking, I'm like, maybe I'm doing it wrong, but when I went in, because I was looking on. information. I'll check that out.
Thank you.
Anything else about the website?
Carol, is good.
Are we gonna go back to it, or do you wanna do?
No, you can finish your.
Okay, so I think that, yeah, so I think like notifications would be great to do it, I think, notifications, like the water, testing information, so I don't know if we can, like, that could be somehow on the front or where you would put it, but like, even like have a safe, happy summer on the first day of school is on the front of the website. So maybe like something that's like big happening at the school in regards to like information or something on the front. Somehow, I don't know how we would do that, but, in regards to the bus boat schedule, because I brought that up, like two things, and I think actually it would be good, if you guys mentioned, last year, but, I don't know, so I was looking at Cumberland's and Yarmouth, and they do tweets, like the numbers. I think it's like more to like delayed days, when we have delayed snow days and stuff like that, like when will the bus be coming, by, or I know it's like 2 hours difference, so what, we do the 2 hours difference, right? Is that what it is?
Well, if it's the bus goes by your house at 8:10, and we have a 2-hour delay, it's gonna go by your house at
Not
10:10.
Okay,
So
so I
one-
think could we do like the street, like numbers, or just like North Road, like just a general, or when we leave school, like I don't even know, like, in the beginning of school, I didn't know when, like, it's just sometimes I don't know, when we have somebody at our house watching our children, when,
So-
really tell them, when they'll be around.
So on that, those buttons on the bottom. the
Yeah.
Buttons when you click it, and it's a, bus and boat schedule, and
Yeah.
you click on it, and it takes you right to CTC.
Yeah,
That's the only function that that button has, is what I understand. That's,
Can they fix that? The website company? We asked them to fix that?
their cost.
What is it that we would want?
Well, I don't
Is
think it needs to be directly linked to CTC's website. I mean, if anything, it should be linked to the schedule of CTC's website. Or have a PDF of that and a PDF of the school bus schedule.
Well,
yeah,
it should have both.
Correct.
That's what it said, on the.
Correct,
Yeah.
and all it's doing is
Can you
just sending you to
find
the CTC website.
I haven't had a chance to yet, but, Kristen and I just briefly had talked about the fact that there needs to be some updates, and she explained those things that I shared with you. But she did give me, some information of how, I just haven't had a chance to look at it. She gave it to me at the end of the week last week. So I'll try to see if I can get in. I'm fully comfortable if we have access, making those changes and making those tweaks and stuff, so. That's why having the information, like what you want on there, is helpful, because then
I mean, yeah, just the bus times, even just leaving would be great, because Fridays there's not a school program, so just when to expect, kids coming off the bus. And, boat schedule, like even having on there that, I know, I get like texts the night before, if there's gonna be a snow day, is the school boat still running? you know, and it does, or it
Always
does.
does.
Yeah, so it does, or because I thought we changed it, that the 7:05 doesn't run anymore, that it's the 9:05 only.
I think they do
On-
both.
If
So I
there's a delay,
think we need to confirm that because I'm pretty sure like, the 7:05 runs during vacations, but I'm almost positive we changed it at the 7:05, the only vote was the 9:05 when there's a delay.
I will confirm that, but I think he runs both because if it's during the school year and people are expecting the 7:05, and then they don't get it, then, but I will double check that.
But like that would be nice, you know, because then it can just, I think people come to our website to love because there's any information on that.
I'm wondering why there's nothing about the library.
The library,
Yeah, there's all the other, there's the rec center and DTC and this, but there's nothing about our library. Considering, that, you know, that it's the school library too.
From the community.
What, oh, yeah, the community page has everything else.
Yeah.
Except for, not everything, but
well, it doesn't have
anything that pertains to the school and. I
the
know,
rec center, but not.
And even just, yeah, having our open house on the calendar.
The school's not there. That's one thing that I know community members said that calendar was pretty bare last year.
Or like no school Friday, October 6th.
Yeah, those sort of things.
It's a time sink to keep up with all this.
plus everything else she does.
Right, but I mean, so it's,
Yeah.
At one point, we had someone else doing the webpage because it was. Danny was doing it. Was Danny doing it when you were?
no, I didn't.
Okay.
He created it, but I managed.
As long as people are using it, that's always been my thing around keeping the website, so, because I absolutely don't mind like keeping up a website as long as it's being accessed. So it just depends on, it's like finding communication that works the best. It's like, my understanding is that the town website is hugely visited. Does that seem correct? Like that people get their information there? No.
That's website.
That's what I meant. I'm sorry, that's, yeah, is it called
But I-
Dad's website?
No.
Okay.
But I think that community, I mean, I'm not a parent of the school, but I think a lot of community members look to the school website for information in addition to Beck's website. So I know that that is something that they really want actively updated so that they can have that communication piece and are updated with information.
Yeah,
Then March 22, if it's not updated, people stop visiting it. And then
Correct.
Yeah, it's not used, so.
I think too, like, we got a grant to do the website, so this is, because the other one was so challenging to navigate with it. So I think that, you know, we invested the money, so it would be great, to definitely invest. I know, like, I go on it quite a bit, like, especially for the calendar, like, if I like misplace something, and instead of like searching my email, you know, I'll like, I go on there for the calendar, I go on there for the minutes. You know, because like, I know the parent who asked about the walker, I actually went on the minutes also, to just be like, you know, maybe we could just direct her that, so I mentioned to her. Because if they want to, but I think that, yeah, I think that those things, agenda, yeah. And it was kind of our way to attract people. Like give people who are thinking of moving here, so I think like with that lens as well, as like one of the first things people do when they have kids and are thinking of moving here is they look at the school. So it's much like way to, you know, just to inform people from outside of what we do at this school is also.
So updating is super important. Is there any interest in like communicating what's happening in classrooms, like having classroom pages on there?
I mean,
Or do you, I mean, it's also becomes a privacy issue.
I think if people have checked off the box of pictures, like, updating like the pictures is great to see, and I think, newsletters that have gone out, thanking those. Yeah, I think that is definitely, I think community would love it, but I also think that people who are looking at this potential school would. It would be great to see what people are doing in their family.
Like the newsletter that you get,
Links.
those
Yeah,
as well, the ones we sent to parents.
I don't know,
I'm
I don't
thinking
think
more the ones that the
that-
community gets.
yeah, the
Community
community
newsletters.
Yeah.
I would be more
Yeah.
comfortable with that.
Yeah.
I used to have a blog or did newsletters and then there was, and I will say in the community, I got really positive feedback. So I love seeing your newsletter, blah, blah, blah. But then there were also times when people then had concerns about privacy. So then it was not linked on Deb's website. But if parents, if there are other schools that have sites where there's a code or it's parent restricted, and then it's up to that parent if they want to send their code to Grammy to let them see photos or something, or is, I don't know how it's restricted. But, that's an option for sharing, or newsletters, people could just send them to other extended family that with whom they want to share. But I don't feel, as much as I would love to see things, and I know other people do, I do feel there's a privacy issue that people don't need to see everything in the classroom or hear everything in the classroom, because it's your classroom and it's your community.
Yeah, I think that there may be a way, once we initially get what's kind of essential to get started for communication, that maybe we think about doing a quarterly that goes to the community, so that it is getting out there, or some form of a way of doing it, that it's not your every time you're communicating to parents about what's going on in the classroom, but yet you're giving the community a picture of what happens here.
So I think we have some good stuff that, Mary's gonna work on. Feel free to email Anne or Mary if there's anything else that you feel that you need to continue to work on with the website. But Carol's here, so she's gonna give us an update on the water. Thank you for coming, Carol.
So I'll just give a quick, for the folks that are new, just so they understand kind of how this all started. So the spring of 2022, the state had all schools test for PFAS. Stepping back one step, since the school's been an independent community school, so 2007, I've been the water operator. In part because we were spending a couple $1,000s a year with water operators, so I said, I'll just do it. And we never had any problems with anything bacteria. We have slightly elevated arsenic, but we never had to treat it. And so anyway, we treat for iron and manganese, which is common on the island with a water softener, but that's not it's not required. That was optional because it's not a health concern. So at any rate, in the spring of 2022, tested for PFAS, we found PFAS in the school water supply, also in the rec center water supply. We installed a pretty basic treatment system, in consultation with the school committee and the drinking water program, and we have a guy assigned to us who's our water inspector, and we all decided that it made sense to do it, put in a very simple kind of household system, which we paid for ourselves for about, I think, $4,000. And the goal there was to get it installed before school started, which we did. So after that, things were okay for a while, then we started detecting persistent bacteria problems. And that started in the fall of 2022. And it's pretty much been ongoing since then, and there's been quite a bit of work to try to resolve the problem by both the treatment system folks, by John Rich and by myself, and now by several others. And I think part of it's definitely, we never had any bacteria problems before we installed treatment. The well water itself has never had any bacteria. all the times we tested it, including through this whole ordeal. So the water coming in from the well into the building is fine. So it's basically something in the utility room treatment system. Never had a problem until we installed this carbon treatment. So, and we aren't the only ones sort of experiencing this. It's interesting that they install these in a lot of homes, but they don't test for bacteria typically because it's not something homeowners do. But now that they've installed them in public water supplies, we're not the only ones having bacteria problems. Ours is probably compounded by the fact that the utility room gets like pretty hot, just like the rec center one. And the rec center one is hot year round because they're running the pool, they're heating the pool, and so it's pretty toasty in there. I was in there the other day. So unfortunately, you know, we have what was called, so I did an evaluation, then we had a third party come out and do an evaluation, but because we continue to have bacteria detections, they had a third party come out and do an evaluation, and these are all regulations that we have to follow because we're regulated as a public water supply. And the regulations that come from really EPA that Maine implements. So Maine doesn't have a lot of control over what we do. The real problem that occurred was in August. One of our samples came back positive for E. coli. And I'm skeptical of that result, but because it's in that particular sample went to the state laboratory. So the state runs their own water laboratory, and that sample was run at the state lab. So that puts us into a different category, because just like I've done sampled like 150 wells this summer on the island, and several people have bacteria, total coliform bacteria, but a few people have had E. coli, which is much more of a concern from a human health standpoint. And E. coli is basically, you know, related, it's a mammalian source, it could be animal or human, and typically, you know, associated with the digestive tract or feces. So I have no idea how we could possibly get a total coliform hit here, and I think it's an error, but because of the way the system works, once it's positive, we have to install disinfection. And then we went through all the different, we had a meeting with the drinking water program, went through the different options. We could install a different kind of PFAS treatment. That would take quite some time. There's a resin type of treatment that, and it would be fairly expensive. We'd have to jump through the hoops to get funded through the drinking water program. It's an option. We could also, we can't use UV, which is another type of disinfection, which is a little quicker to install, so we have to use chlorination. And it's a lot of schools have chlorination already as kind of, you know, sort of extra insurance for some situations. So the recommendation from the state and frankly the contractors is that we install a chlorination system. So in order to do that, we have to apply for a change of treatment. I have to apply for the grant. The state will pay for it because we're a school that's being required to do it. So I have to fill out all the paperwork. But so right now, and what happened, I should step back a bit for those of you who didn't know. So when we had an E. coli hit, that's when we were required to post a boil water order. It's a inflexible, absolutely required regulation that comes from EPA. And that's to prevent any potential exposure till the problem is remedied. So that's why we still have a boil water order. Previously, we just had a coliform problem and we had to do more testing, total coliform, but not E. coli. And so that's put us in this different category that requires, you know, that poly has to be licensed by the state through the food service program kind of operation. And I have to say, they called her right away. And so she's restricted in terms of what she can do. She can use the water if she boils it. I think we're finding that that's not that simple. I mean, and that's what most people do. They don't, you know, they don't utilize the water because at least in this kind of setup, because it's not really worth the effort. So the goal right now is where it stands is we are applying for, we're getting quotes for a treatment system and a chlorination treatment system. And the golf club used to have one. There's several on the island. They're not very difficult. They're not very complex.
You're basically a little pump that injects a little chlorine, sits in a tank, and then it treats any potential bacteria. And typically you don't have a, chlorine taste or odor because it's a much smaller system than like a public water system that really chlorinates. So that's what the short term, in my mind, the short term approach is gonna be. And so I started preparing paperwork. The minimum amount of time I think it will take is a month. The maximum amount of time it might take is 2 months. So from this week. And my goal is to try to get it done in a month if we can, but that's up to the state to process the paperwork, that they know that this is kind of a major hassle, so we'll try to do it. We aren't the only school in this circumstance. And they're mostly smaller rural schools like ourselves, so they have the same challenges. So that's kind of what the short-term game plan is. I think Ann's aware, we did apply for and receive a grant to look for an alternative supply before this bacteria problem even became more significant. So we received that grant, and so so at the same time, we are looking for a potential alternative as well. But we have to go through this process. You don't just say here, I have to kind of demonstrate to them that there's a chance that we could avoid PFAS, within the location. So that's kind of where it's at, and because of the E. coli hit, that kind of bumped us up into what they would call a higher risk category. And ironically, since that test, we've had no bacterial detections at all. But it doesn't matter. So that's how it works. So it's,
Through the rec center, did they test it all?
they've been testing, I just took some tests for them. So they have right now just protocol for bacteria, so when you have that problem, you are required to continue testing, but if it persists, to be honest, if we had had bacteria for a year, they would have made us do treatment. So I think the rec center might be right behind us in terms of their trajectory. They have a bigger challenge because that room is like 210 meters, I mean, it's wicked hot, and they have a much larger treatment system. And, that will be a bigger technical challenge in terms of solving that problem. So there's the guy so the first person we had was a woman from Wisconsin who did our assessment. She had run a public water system for 30 years, very experienced, nice person. She came out right away because it's school and helped us out. And she suspected that it was one of the pressure tanks in there, and I think she was probably right. And we bypassed it. But the problem is when there isn't a lot of use in the school over the summer, there's a lot of, I ran the water for 3 hours, but it probably should have been like 3 days in retrospect. And it was a very rainy, warm summer. Those things all contribute to kind of not the best situation, but the rec center is categorized as a different type of system, so they don't have to meet the same requirements. They do have PFAS, and the state's well aware that PFAS, water was heading to a daycare, so they were doing treatment. And the rec center installed that treatment on their own nickel, apparently. They didn't apply for grant. And we still could apply for a treatment grant and put in a different system that might not have these problems. So if this is sort of a stopgap measure to figure out kind of what we're gonna do, and we didn't access the PFAS treatment funds, so we would have an opportunity potentially to do that down the line. If this, my goal would be to get rid of the treatment, all of it, either with a new well or a system that is not as much of a bacterial concern. And the state, because this has occurred in more than one place, the state is really looking into, whether or not these sort of simple carbon treatment systems might be somewhat more problematic than they realize. So my job is to make sure that my job in the drinking water program's job is to make sure nobody's drinking water that's a potential health risk. I can assure you that we're in good hands here because we have bottled water. Polly is very conscientious. I can tell you at other places, people are not so conscientious. So we should be glad that, you know, people are following the rules here. And if we do install chlorination, which I expect, then the good news there is even if we don't need it, we won't have a bacterial infection. I mean, it will, but I think we can be rest assured that it's another thing I have to take care of, and I'm not loving that idea, but, it's relatively simple, so. So, Karen, just so that I'm hearing you right, we got, you know, with the PFAS, and we got that all taken care of, and you came in to do another test, and that's when you found the full one. But since that one test, you haven't found it again. But it set everybody's
Set
hair
the
on
wheels
fire,
turning.
and
We had a big meeting because I tried to unwind those wheels, because I'm only drinking one.
Yeah.
But, they have no flexibility at the state level.
Right.
So that's the situation. It's frustrating, to put it mildly.
and I
Particularly since we not only have had no E. coli, we've had no bacteria in the samples that I've been testing. But that's where it's at. It's a good thing that we have no bacteria. And I think chlorination is like an insurance system.
Doesn't matter how long we would go without any bacteria, it doesn't matter.
It's because you're a public water supply, and there's no way to be, I mean, the thinking behind it, and this was a big rule change about 5 years ago, is that, you know, there were because people would have problems for a while, and then they would stop, and then they'd come back, and then they would stop, and that's kind of what we were seeing here, like, we resolved it, and then a couple months later, it would reappear. And the problem with that is you never know when it's reappearing unless you're testing pretty continuously. And so that's really why, from a public drinking water standpoint, they require treatment. And it is, I think, the simplest and most practical thing. The PFAS thing is really the bigger problem in terms of whether this is the right kind of treatment, or whether we could potentially find a supply that we don't have to treat at all, which would be my preference. And a couple schools have done that and been successful. And the state has money to pay for the installation of a new well, you know, but it's kind of, you know, first come, first served.
The question of the new well is, why would we not just assume that we're gonna end up with the same problem?
Because it depends, it's probably not a widespread problem. The concentrations are pretty low.
Of the.
PFAS. So I'll be sampling the wells around here to see if they have PFAS. And if the whole street has PFAS, yeah, we're not gonna find another well. But if it turns out that it's these two wells, then there's a good potential to find another location.
Because the rec center does have the same problem, so.
Yeah, but the rec center pumps a lot of water for the irrigation system, so the chances of them, and they're interconnected. We know from when we studied the water for the irrigation system, the two wells spawn together.
Mhm.
And a couple of the residential wells do too, so we'll have to be sure that they're not getting it, but the levels that we have are very low. And so it's possible, and one of the things, you know, some schools have gone to, they had higher levels and they were at least trying to find wells with lower levels because it's less expensive to treat. And that might be an option, but I think our level, I'm not sure we can't find a supply, but I need to kind of demonstrate that for my own kind of sanity. That this is it, this is what we have to stick with, and what I would want to do is look at, say we can't find another supply, then I would look at changing the treatment technique probably to a resin, which is very expensive, but, you know, the state could fund that, but it probably doesn't have the same kind of residence problems that we have. So that's, you know, it's why we didn't go that route in the beginning, because they're pretty expensive.
Mhm.
So, but I'd say the state is learning along as we go, same thing, it's, you know. So I apologize, I feel somehow personally responsible, but.
Oh, my goodness, thank you for.
Oh, thank you.
Well, it's been,
Heroic effort.
the E. coli thing was a surprise to me, and I literally tested it the next day and it was negative. And that was like, and I thought, okay, so that means like we just keep testing. They're like, nope. And I'm like, what? And, you know, so I also have a lot of sympathy for these other little schools, so, you know. And I can tell you, some little schools are just using the water, which they shouldn't be doing. But that's what we do. So it's a hassle. It will hopefully be over in a month's time on the boil water order. And I think Polly went from sort of a mode of operation to like, forget it, guys, because then I think that's practical for, it's only another month, hopefully, and then we, you know, then we should be okay. And part of the problem was we had the treatment system people last fall coming in quite a bit. It was very disruptive, trying to figure out this problem and sanitizing the system and all that kind of jazz. And the nice thing about, you know, installing chlorination is that should be it.
I'm not gonna ask you to promise that.
Yeah, and it's a good thing, if you recall, the rec center came and asked us, I happened to be at the meeting and was like, you know, we want you guys to do the irrigation system and because we would have to also, even though it's an irrigation system, we still have to treat that, and frankly, you know, we don't want to be doing that. So, if you need any justifications, that's it. And they are classified differently, they don't have to meet the same requirements because they're called a transient system. And because of that, that means people are coming and going, not at the same time. The daycare falls slightly under the requirement. And they've made the decision, they could qualify as the same kind of system we are and then be eligible for more funding, but they've opted not to do that. So they don't need to, but that's, and I just want you to know, I've helped them out a little bit, but that's not my, I'm not really in the loop. It's not my decision how they operate that.
Oh, go ahead.
So several days ago, my wife emailed and they're just looking for some clarification on what's going on with the water. Also wondering, how the kids are washing their hands. Or if the kids are still washing their hands. Because my kids, just like probably most of the kids that go here, have their hands in their mouth all the time after they wash their hands. So if they have E. coli in the water, and I'm not, anyway, here or there about that, but, you know, they're washing their hands and then they stick their, you know, they rinse their hands off, then they stick it in their mouth. So now you know, their hands still contaminated with the water. It doesn't matter if they're using antibacterial soap or anything. So I'm just wondering what kind of hand washing, you know, policy or.
So what we've been working on with the kids is that, like you said, when Polly got the call and she said, you know, she went and got antibacterial soap for every sink around. And after they wash, they have to sanitize. With hand sanitizer, so they do both. And so if they put their hands in their mouth, they get a little hand sanitizer at the very beginning, and hopefully that'll discourage that. But that's the protocol. They have the bacteria soap and then they squirt. We all do. I mean, the adults do it, the adults as well.
Yeah, and Miss Polly has the hand sanitizer when she gives them their lunch, before they get their lunch, they have to use the sanitizer.
Training.
Yeah.
And that, I'm sure that meets the requirements. They don't actually prohibit you, strangely enough, from using the water for hand washing, bathing. It's really human consumption. So you don't want to be drinking it even unless you boil it, and you can boil it for a minute and that's fine. And some schools are doing that. That's how they've dealt with it.
Polly's got two buckets in the fridge of water that she has boiled, and then she keeps one on the stove all the time. So it's, and she said that she was going about crazy and, you know, can we just go to sandwiches? And before school started, I went to Sam's Club and bought paper plates and paper bowls and paper cups, and it about killed me to buy 500 plastic forks and plastic spoons. Oh, that hurt. But that's what we've been using, and everything is disposable.
Our dishwasher is not capable of boiling water to the point where.
I don't know the answer to that. That's something that she probably talks to the food guy, you know, the human services, food service guy, so I don't know. She had that conversation with him. So,
It does, but she just doesn't, she's not a risk taker when it comes to getting, you know, the kids sick at all. She's gonna err on the side of caution, which I truly appreciate.
Okay, well, thank you very much for coming and giving an update. I
So,
really appreciate
you
it.
heard me say a month, maybe 2 months,
Yeah.
but it is temporary.
Okay.
That's good.
I wonder, just real quick, because I know you responded, to some of the questions about it. I wonder if we could just get like.
Yes, I
an
can write
outline,
something.
that would be great, and we could go to all parents, you know.
Right,
or
and I-
all parents, or something, but.
I just got a thing on Friday that said this. is planned.
Oh, you did, okay.
Yeah, so I.
Because I know you were waiting for that.
Right, and so I can write up, I don't wanna go through the whole litany, I think I'll just explain to people, this is what we plan to do, and, you know, it's gonna take a little longer on the boil water order, but, you know, it's gonna get resolved.
Because I knew that when you got the plan, that you would get the plan, so thank you.
Right, so that's why I came tonight, so that, but I can write something up, and you have an open house when,
Next Tuesday.
so I'll try to do it before that. And I'll be happy, I'll be the first person in here written down the boil water order. Yeah. I can-
I think you'll have to fight Polly for that. Well, there's enough around that you can all. get a
So-
hold of.
Apologies, but
Thank you,
we're
Carol.
getting there, we're making progress.
I appreciate,
I do probably, if you listen to NPR, Maine Public Radio, they had a thing on today about all these people live infections. So you're not the only one. You,
What's in the state lab? Is that part of the question? I mean, or do they?
that's me talking, don't distribute that, but it's suspicious to me that that's the only test that came out, E. coli positive. And we went to the state lab because we had other parameters that were going there. And it's surprising to me that I thought when I tested the next day and it was fine, it had total coliform, but not E. coli. I thought that would be, you know, no problem, but doesn't work that way, so I learned that, but no, that's me saying, because E. coli is a waste product of mammals. And how could it possibly get into our piping system when it's not coming in the source water? And I will tell you that the drinking water program doesn't exactly disagree with me. But there's not much they can do. So, anyway, and that's just, and you're right, it's just one hit. It's because everything is on the budget supply from the public water supplies, especially with schools. So we should be.
Thank you very much.
And I will tell you that on the island, we tested 150 wells and about 35% of them have protocol. So that's very common.
So we have a warrant tonight. Yeah, we should do something. Yeah, you guys have anything else you want to say? Almost, I was gonna have a quick executive session. So there's a warrant tonight, anything earth shattering that you guys want on next meeting's agenda?
Give you guys.
We're gonna just go into a quick executive session, so if you could just pump that up for me, please, that would be great. Yeah.
We have to move to close this
Yes.
regular meeting?
Yes,
Okay, after you come out of executive session.
right, yes.
Any
You have to-
motion to come out of.
No, you go
To
into.
move.
To go into executive.
Oh,